Hello, my name is Dr. Michael Mack. I'm one of the residents here at the University of Calgary, here to explain to you Cataract D anterior vitrectomy level 4. In this particular level, you will inadvertently cause a posterior capsular rupture. So no matter what you do, no matter how careful you are, the machine just sets you up for failure so that a posterior capsular rupture will occur. And it says that in the instructions. So once that happens, you want to immediately insert in Triamcinolone and then insert your vitrector. Now, like I've mentioned in my other videos, I usually set the irrigation to continuous so that you don't forget to be in foot position 1 when you're entering or exiting the eye. First of all, I chase or I put the vitrector down beneath the posterior capsule so I get some of the vitreous underneath the posterior capsule first, and then I start going after the rest of the vitreous. So it looks like I've gotten most of the vitreous there. Let's stain one more time, and you have to stain again and again just to make sure that you get everything. The instructions for this particular level says that if you aren't careful and you don't stain the posterior vitreous, you may have vitreous that eventually starts to prolapse into the bag and into the anterior chamber. So I'm putting a little bit of viscoelastic just to try to tamponade the break, since there's still a lot of cortex left. And so I use the irrigation aspiration handpiece, and again my settings are the bottle height level is about 55, and then the flow is about 10, and I leave it on the regular level for aspiration. The reason is that if your bottle height is too high, normally the machine sets it on 70-ish, then you'll get deducted points for having too high of an infusion pressure. And then if your flow rate is too high, the machine will also complain about that as well. So I like to pull the cortex into the center using an irrigation aspiration handpiece with a high vacuum but low flow rate, and then I consume the rest of the cortex using my vitrector. So that's why you see the instruments constantly change. I don't know how that reflects real life. Maybe with a few more years of experience I'll be able to tell you. But so far I think that just for the purposes of the simulator that this works quite well. So that way you're safe when you're trying to get the remaining cortex and you're not dealing with weak zonules or potentially causing zonular loss, and you can easily consume the rest of the cortex available, and if there's any vitreous left you can also cut it down using the vitrector as well. So now I'm going after the last piece with the aspiration handpiece, able to get it. And then I can cut up the rest of the cortex. So I'm going to stain one more time just to make sure that there's no remaining vitreous left. And it looks like we're pretty much in the clear. Now there is viscoelastic left, but the machine doesn't deduct points for retained viscoelastic. So let's take a look at that one more time. So again, remember, whatever you do, you're going to cause a posterior capsule rupture, and this machine is just trying to set you up for that. So there we go. Oh no, there's the PCR. Immediately grab the Triamcinolone, stain the vitreous, and then go after it with the cutter starting from the very base. So there's the Triamcinolone. Remember to set your irrigation as continuous so that you don't lose points for getting to be in foot position 1. And then you start cutting up the rest of the vitreous. Start from the base and then come forward. Make sure that you're not causing any traction and pulling vitreous forward, because that will deduct you a lot of points. So sometimes I just stop and I continue trying to cut up the rest or that space that is behind the capsule. Stain again. Let's take a look one more time. And then it kind of looks like we're in the clear. I don't see any remaining vitreous. Remember, vitrector out or aspiration handpiece out first before the irrigation handpiece, and that way you'll never lose points because the machine will deduct points from you if you take out the irrigation first, then the aspirator. So there's my bimanual IA. So again, I set the settings, flow rate of 10, bottle height 55, and then I change between the aspirator and the vitrector instead of changing the flow settings, which may be a bit easier, but I don't want to cause any issues with the too high a flow inside the bag, which the machine, I've tried it before, unfortunately will deduct points if it goes higher than, I say, 15 or 20. So but for the vitrector, if you use the vitrector to cut up the cortex, the machine doesn't really care so much. So that remaining piece of cortex is quite difficult, so I've actually changed over, and if you notice I've switched hands. So I'm now using my left hand with the aspirator and then the right hand with the irrigator. One thing about the cataract head for this simulator is that it's actually very hard to put in the red-tipped instrument, or in this case acting as the aspirator, because the instrument actually is very thick and it ends up bouncing against the temple of the cataract head, which is why it's very difficult to switch hands very easily. Otherwise I would be using the left hand for the vitrectomy cutter in certain situations as well. It's just a small gripe, but it sometimes makes it a bit of a challenge, and hopefully they'll be able to fix that in the future. So there I'm staining the remaining vitreous to see if there's anything left, and there's none. We scored 100 on both attempts. Thank you very much for watching. Hope this video helped you get through this level. Please like and subscribe for more.